This is our land and we will not leave it. We will continue to resist until Palestine is liberated, all of Palestine. These words from the late Palestinian Yasser Arafat capture the determination of the Palestinian people in the fight for justice, freedom and their homeland. Today we highlight Palestinians' historic achievement, securing an official seat in the UN General Assembly. This step strengthens international recognition of Palestinians' right and reaffirm their right to statehood and self-determination. The General Assembly is a vital platform to voice Palestinians' concerns, especially regarding to Israel's violation, illegal settlements and aggressions in Gaza, with Security Council hindered by vetoes. Palestinians' diplomatic efforts persist for global support and justice. We are honored to welcome Dr. Riyad Mansour, permanent representative of the State of Palestine, to United Nations via Zoom platform to delve into diplomatic efforts behind this achievement. Welcome, Dr. Mansour, to our show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. We are so honored. Dr. Mansour, Your Excellency, let's first talk about Palestine secure an official seat in United Nations General Assembly. What the significance of this achievement and what does it mean for Palestinians' right and its national and international standing? And what are the new privileges and the new rights beyond this achievement?
Let me just say that last Tuesday, the beginning of the 79th session of the General Assembly was a historic day for us, in which the resolution that we've adopted in May, after casting a veto on our admission in the Security Council, and we resumed the 10th emergency session in which a resolution was adopted by 143 votes in favor and less than 10 voted against. In that historic resolution, the General Assembly reaffirmed that the State of Palestine meets all the criteria for admission to membership and asked the General Assembly to reconsider its veto on our admission, in which we received 12 votes in favor, 2 abstentions, and only one country that has the veto power blocked our effort to have a recommendation from the Security Council to the General Assembly to admit the State of Palestine for full membership. In that resolution in May, among other things, it added one page as an annex in which we received additional rights and privileges that pushed us so close to full membership in the General Assembly. Among these rights and privileges, we moved from where we traditionally used to sit at the end of the 193 members who are a full member of the United Nations, and we sat with the observers, beginning with the Holy See and the State of Palestine, the European Union, and other observers with lesser rights and privileges. It bestowed on us to sit among member states in alphabetical order, which is a huge step in the direction of full membership. In addition to that, many other rights and privileges were bestowed on us, and tomorrow we will exercise another one, in which we are now allowed to submit resolutions directly and not to do it through the chair of the Arab group or the OIC or other groups such as NAM. Now, the State of Palestine has the authority to submit resolutions directly, to co-sponsor resolutions, to sponsor resolutions. So tomorrow, we will introduce the draft resolution submitted by the State of Palestine related to the historic advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice. So we will be the first speaker to introduce our draft resolution and to ask member states to support that resolution and to vote in favor.
Yes, Dr.
Of course, there are other rights and privileges bestowed to us, including now we have the right to run for any leadership position within the General Assembly, including the President of the General Assembly, the Vice President, the 21 of them, to have a seat among them as an elected Vice President of the General Assembly. We can run to be the chair of the first committee, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. We can run for vice chairs. We can run for rapporteurs and many other rights and privileges bestowed on us in one full page as an annex to that resolution adopted in May.
Yes, Your
so for all
yes, Your Honor. Yeah. First, congratulations. As you mentioned, it's a historic achievement. First, I want to ask you about what next after securing an official seat. What are the diplomatic efforts in order to secure a permanent seat in United Nations, and what kind of challenging that facing diplomacy, Palestinians diplomacy, along with?
Let me just say that in the next 2 days, myself and my entire team, and we have been for more than 2 years, fully engaged on the submissions and the oral submission to the ICJ that led, among other things, with the contribution of more than 50 countries in the oral and the written submissions that we did to the ICJ, that led to that historic, very strong, powerful advisory opinion of the ICJ. So now we are in the midst of the stage of voting on the resolution that translates the historic ICJ advisory opinion into a plan of action in which the General Assembly and member states, third-party states, and agencies, companies, everyone, to abide with the ruling that this illegal occupation has to be terminated as quickly as possible. So, and ask the General Assembly and other parts of the UN, including the Security Council, to have a modalities for implementing the ruling of the ICJ. So as part of these modalities, we are putting many things in that resolution, including to terminate this occupation within a period of time.
We hope so, Your Excellency.
6 months, we negotiated with others, it is 12 months, and not to send weapons to Israel, and to say that the international conference will be convened under the auspices of the United Nations. And many other practical steps, including, that the settlements which are illegal to be dismantled and evacuated, and the settlers to be evacuated from these settlements. And
Dr. Mansour, actually, that's what I want to ask you about. When every time there is international resolution or decisions in favor of Palestine, we see more Israelis' atrocity, Israelis' escalation. Recently, withholding Palestinians' money, funds, and restrictions of atrocities across the West Bank. So what are further actions or retaliation and beside consequences you might be anticipated of the Israelis' response in this achievement in the United Nations?
See the difference between this resolution and many of other resolutions that we adopted over the years. The other resolutions reaffirm principles, which are good and which we played a very important role in articulating. This resolution, based on the ruling of the ICJ, is of action-oriented, that this occupation has to end. The Israeli armed forces need to evacuate from all of the occupied territory. And there are sanctions, like not to send weapons to prolong the life of this illegal occupation. In the contrary, countries and the UN is asked to do everything possible in order to shorten the life of this illegal occupation, to end it as quickly as possible. So therefore, in addition to that, these are the mechanisms, the modalities that the ICJ asked for. Then we are asking for every 3 months for the Secretary General to report on the implementation of the things that were asked by the General Assembly on the basis of the ICJ ruling. If we do not see a change of behavior of Israel to stop all these illegal policies and practices, then, we will go back again to the General Assembly based on the report of the Secretary General, and we will ask for additional things in order to bring Israel into compliance.
Yes, Your Excellency, but there is American veto power. United States has repeatedly used the veto power to block any resolutions in favor of Palestine. How do you interpret with this? And does it make the United States an accomplice on the ongoing war in Gaza and the suffering of Palestinian people?
We are going around the veto by asking for practical steps to be taken by the international community, by the UN, and by countries by themselves. For example, if you say to countries, in order to shorten the life of this occupation, you have to stop sending weapons to Israel. Now, this is countries are supposed to abide by that. So if the SG report to us that 5 countries started not sending weapons to Israel, not sending money, not dealing with the settlements, not dealing with anything that is illegal in the occupied territory, then in our next step, we praise those who are complying, and then we ask others to comply, and then we will add additional things that are required to keep pressuring Israel. And then, step by step, this approach of action-oriented and results-oriented practical things, then we will increase the pressure on Israel to comply. If they do not, every time we meet again, we will increase the measures and the asks from countries and from the UN until at the end of the day that Israel will be forced to comply, as was the case in South Africa. And of course, those who continue to refuse to meet their obligation by not shortening the life of this occupation through these measures, including not to stop sending weapons to Israel, it's not sufficient to characterize them as complicit, but we need other countries to pressure them to comply, the General Assembly to pressure them to comply.
Yes.
With regard to admission and membership, we will go back again to the Security Council.
Yes.
We hope...
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Your Excellency. I just want to ask you...
So what I was going to say, we will go to the Security Council and we will ask again to reconsider our admission. If we receive, let's say now, instead of 12 votes yes, 14, and one country continue insisting not to allow us to become a full member state, there are many things that we can do in the General Assembly, and this is not the time to talk about them now. We want to see, maybe they will change their mind and stop blocking us, and therefore we will become a member state equal to everyone else in everything, including in voting. Then, that will be another historic step in the direction of ending the occupation and the sovereignty of the state of Palestine, and, to live in freedom and dignity in our independent sovereign state that is a full member of the United Nations. And so as the president always tells me, we build our state and we acquire our rights. It is like building a house, block by block, brick by brick, and until we complete that house, which will be the end of the occupation, hopefully soon, and the independence of our state, and hopefully soon, and the admission of our state to membership, hopefully soon.
Inshallah, Your Excellency, we hope so.
We have a vision.
Yes, Your Excellency, we are approaching to 1 year of Israeli aggression on Gaza, a year of genocide, a year of forced displacement and famine, diseases. And yet the international response to this is widely seen inadequate. Why the international community with double standard when it's come to addressing the human rights violations against Palestinian civilians?
That is a shameful thing of the international community that allow including the Security Council, that allowed this war to last for almost 1 year, genocidal war against our people, without stopping it. The main responsibility of the Security Council is, whenever there is a war, is to have a ceasefire and to stop it immediately and to try to resolve the conflict through peaceful means. That is the first 2 lines of the Charter of the United Nations, saying that we, the people, to save future generations from the scourge of war, we need to resort to peaceful methods to resolve conflicts. They are violating that important principle in the Charter, but nevertheless, we are not giving up. And we keep knocking on the door of the Security Council. Since the beginning of this aggression against us, during the course of the year, the Security Council met almost 40 times in open meetings or informal consultative meetings, and adopted a number of resolutions. The most important one is the last one, 2735, that calls, among other things, for an immediate ceasefire that would lead to a sustainable cessation of hostilities and the exchange of prisoners and hostages, and providing our people with all what they need in terms of food, water, medicine, at the level of a minimum of 600 truckloads of humanitarian assistance that require opening all of the border crossings to fulfill that, and to allow our people to return to all of the areas where they were forced, pushed out from the north, the middle of the Gaza Strip, to go back to these areas, and for the Israeli forces to withdraw completely from the Gaza Strip and not to reoccupy it, among other things contained in that resolution.
Yes.
This resolution was based on an initiative of President Biden when he suggested the 3 stages. It was adopted more than 3 months ago, and it is shameful on the Security Council that is not being able to implement that resolution, which was adopted by 14 votes and nobody voted against it. We keep knocking on the door. We keep pushing. We will never give up. We will continue telling the international community that you have to shoulder your responsibility to stop these atrocities, to go after those who are committing these crimes against the Palestinian people, to face justice and to receive the punishment that they deserve for what they have done. And our Palestinian people deserve to accomplish their inalienable rights, including our right to self-determination, our righthood to the sovereignty and independence of our state, with East Jerusalem as its capital, and the right of the refugees to return to their homes and properties in accordance with international law.
Yes, Your Honor, that's we hope so. Your Honor, in the same context, there is a sharp rise in Israelis' attack on UNRWA facilities. We're talking about 170 facilities being targeted or damaged, and more than 200 UNRWA staff were killed. How is your response on this, and what is the role of you to address these issues, especially the failure of international community to hold Israelis accountable for the direct assault on the UN agency's facilities?
We are pushing as hard as we can on the ICC in order, to issue the warrants of arrest of criminals such as Netanyahu and his war minister, and to issue these warrants of arrest so that the members of the Rome statutes of the ICC, if any one of them to pass through their countries, to arrest them and to deliver them to the ICC, where they can face all these charges of crimes against humanity and war crimes. We will not relent in all these efforts, whether in the ICC, in the ICJ, and to collaborate with all countries, including South Africa, on the crime of genocide being committed against us, which is on the agenda of the International Court of Justice. And we trust that the court will deal with this issue and render its final position regarding, crimes of genocide committed against our people, and those committing it to face, the punishment that they deserve. In addition to that, we are working nonstop with everyone, and we're receiving massive support and solidarity and voting with us among the international community to stop this war, genocidal war against our people in the Gaza Strip. This is our top priority. And those who go after UNRWA schools and places of shelter and kill more than 212 members of UNRWA, whom we honor them and respect them, and we consider them as martyrs among the Palestinian people. So then those, we will not forget about them. We will continue doing everything that we can in every corner of the globe, in every international organizations, on the basis of international law, until we stop this war and go after those criminals who have caused this much death and destruction and pain to the Palestinian people, especially among children and women and the elderly. So we are all doing what we can, whether in Palestine itself, the leadership, or whether in the international community, where I work day and night in order to accomplish these objectives of our people and to stop this war, to legislate regarding practical steps to end this occupation, this illegal occupation, as quickly as possible on the basis of the International Court of Justice. And we leave no stone unturned in order to accomplish these objectives in this coming weekend and the days after it. All leaders from all corners of the globe will be converging into New York at the United Nations. Our subject is the hottest subject on the agenda of the UN. And hopefully, once we adopt this historic resolution based on a historic ruling of the ICJ in 2 days, it will be part and parcel of the discussion of all leaders with regard to implementation, with regard to ending the war, with regard to going after the criminals who are waging this war against our people from the Israeli leadership.
Yes, Your Honor, what is the role needed from the Arab and the Islamic and the non-aligned countries in order to intensify efforts to halt Israel's aggression on Gaza, and also about humanitarian aid, especially after the failing of the international community and the Security Council of its responsibilities to decisively act accordingly to it?
Well, first of all, we appreciate the fact that there was a summit, joint summit, Arabs and Muslims, that was convened in Riyadh from the beginning of this war. And a ministerial committee was formed, led by the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia, of 8 countries, 5 Arabs and 3 Muslims. And they played, and still playing, a big role in trying to bring this war to an end, in making sure that humanitarian assistance to scale to reach the Palestinian people and to fight against the crime against humanity of displacing the Palestinian people, especially outside Palestine. And they played also a very important role in the waves of recognitions of states, especially among European states led by Spain, and played also a very important role a few days ago in the conference that was convened in Madrid under the leadership of the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia and the foreign minister of Spain. But nevertheless, the Arab countries and the Muslim countries and all nations can do more. And I hope that they do more, because what they have done so far did not yet lead to the implementation of the ceasefire resolution adopted by the Security Council. There has to be more to be done by them and by other countries that are friendly to Palestine. They have many tools available to them in their hands, in their national capacity. And if they decide to use these additional elements available to them and tools, then that will increase the pressure on Israel to stop these crimes and to stop this war, and to start seriously feeling the heat that this occupation has to end, this illegal occupation has to end, and it has to end as quickly as possible. And all of the illegal manifestations of this illegal occupation, such as annexations, such as discrimination, apartheid, denial of our right to exercise self-determination, and settlements, and evacuating the settlers and dismantling the settlements, all these things would become, moving in the direction of being implemented as quickly as possible. This occupying authority needs to see a tougher hand, a stronger position, measures, sanctions by countries on their own national capacity and by the international community as a whole. The experience of South Africa in mobilizing huge amount of support to their just struggle and isolating apartheid until they led to its collapse is the path that we are following, and eventually that will lead to the collapse of this illegal system of occupation and its elimination, and with all of its manifestations, including settlements, annexation, discrimination, denial of our right to exercise self-determination. All these things will eventually take place depending on how much we can maximize the pressure by everyone to do what they can to use the tools available to them in order to bring an end to this illegal, prolonged occupation.
Inshallah. Your Excellency, as you mentioned, about a growing solidarity and sympathy among international public and governments. How can we effectively harness this sympathy and solidarity to recognize greater recognitions of Palestinians' statehood and Palestinians' rights?
Well, we see, the initial, positive results of these things in the voting in the General Assembly, in the voting in the Security Council, in the positions in the ICJ, and we are very, very close to issuing warrants of arrest because the prosecutor is being pressured by everyone, including civil society organizations, so that this massive solidarity and the millions of people participating in demonstrations in all corners of the globe, including in the United States of America, in their campuses and universities, all these things are contributing to us not being isolated, that we are supported by this massive number of countries and humans and individuals and organizations and trade unions and civil society organizations, and Israel is getting more and more isolated and pressured. And I believe at one point this pressure would lead to the beginning of the collapse of this illegal system of occupation and the beginning of its collapse.
Yes, Dr. Riyad Mansour, Permanent Representative of Palestinian State to the United Nations, thank you so much for your insight on Palestinian International Broadcasting. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The struggle for justice and freedom for Palestinian people has reached pivotal moment. Securing an official seat in the United General Assembly is a historic achievement that illuminates the path forward after decades of relentless struggle. This milestone is a profound testament to the unwavering resolve of the Palestinian people and their global supporter, reflecting the dreams and the sacrifice for those fighting for justice and self-determination. Thank you so much for watching Palestinian International Broadcasting.